Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in my last video I said that I wanted my next video to be kind of a what did they all do kind of situation. I start with primers. I go to foundation, concealers, setting powder, blush, bronzer, contour, little highlight. I know I mentioned it in the video, but it's so important, I'm gonna say it twice. Everything that I choose that goes on my face is based on my skin type and how my skin's feeling that day, and I mention that a lot. So again, I don't care what brand of makeup you're putting on your face, whether it comes from the Dollar Tree or e.l.f. or Maybelline or Estee Lauder or MAC or Chanel or Burberry, whatever, I don't care. None of it's going to perform the way you want it to unless your skincare is on point. Okay. Stepping down off my high horse now. Awesome. So let's get to the video and I'll see you guys next time. It feels really weird to be doing a video where I already have makeup on. So the first product I'm going to talk about is primers. This is the one product that I feel like has the biggest misconception around it. Most primers aren't made to make your makeup last longer. Most primers address specific skincare issues, and this is where I take the biggest issue with makeup is people want to skip over the skincare part of it. And I don't care what brand makeup you're using, if it's from the dollar store or e.l.f. or MAC or Chanel, whatever, no makeup is going to perform the way you want it to unless your skincare is on point. I have 3 separate primers I'm going to show you. The first one I'll talk about is Natural Radiance Primer by MAC. This one has the consistency of like a gel-based moisturizer. This one specifically addresses oil control. So a lot of times during the summer, I'll get a little more oily like in my T-zone area. So that's when I will use Natural Radiance. I'll put that just where I need it to help my T-zone oil. Next, I have Too Faced Hangover Primer. Now this is a hydrating primer. So aside from this consistency is more like daytime moisturizer. It's not super thick and creamy, but it's a little heavier than what the MAC's Natural Radiance is. Last, I feel like is the most common kind of primer, and this is the Smashbox Photo Finish. This is just a little sample. This one is designed for texture. So if you have extreme acne scarring or fine lines, large pores, anything where you feel like your makeup kind of settles into, that's when you would pull out something like this. This does have that really super thick dimethicone kind of feel to it. The reason is that primer, where it's so thick, is going to literally sit inside whatever texture you're trying to feel and give you a more even canvas to start with. I'm going to throw in one more just for fun. This is also the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer, but this one is for color correcting. This one is specifically for red, because green on top of red will neutralize it. So if you have just a little bit of redness similar to me, then you could probably get away with just a yellow primer. There's also a purple, but all of those are to color correct, so still a skincare related issue. I'm going to use my Too Faced Hangover Primer. And another issue I feel like people have with primers is they use too much. I recommend starting with about the size of a chocolate chip, because a lot of things, if you use too much, you're not gonna love it. Moving on, foundation. Foundation is not meant to totally 100% camouflage everything on your skin. Foundation is meant to give you a more even skin tone. You wanna get the majority of it done with your foundation and then move into your concealer, because concealer is typically much more pigmented than foundation. So that's when you would go into spot conceal, and that will keep you from having layers and layers and layers of foundation on your face when you may only need one layer everywhere and a little concealer here, here, here to kind of blend everything and make it look flawless. You don't have to have a full coverage foundation for flawless skin. My favorite combination of the moment is my Makeup Forever Matte Velvet and my Maybelline Fit Me Matte Poreless. Because I used the Hangover Primer, it's hydrating. It's going to help kind of compensate for this matte finish on my drier skin. There's method to my madness. I feel like if I laid my product down this way as opposed to picking it up with my beauty blender, that it picks up and absorbs less product. I could be totally making that up in my head, but it's how I feel. I am using a damp beauty blender when I go for a medium or fuller coverage foundation, and especially when that foundation is matte. I feel like a beauty blender just helps give it a more even blend. The skin around our eyes is thinner than the skin on the rest of our face, so I don't like to cake up foundation underneath my eye. I kind of leave that blank just for concealer. If you put product on product on product on top of that thin skin, it can really kind of settle down and make you appear to have texture that you don't even really have. It's not even that it emphasizes texture, it can create texture. So for concealers, I like to have two. One that matches pretty dead on to my skin. If my concealer is always lighter, I don't want to highlight my pimple, you know, so I want one that matches my foundation shade. Also, texture-wise, for under the eye, I like something that's a little sheer and a little more hydrating. NARS Creamy Radiant Concealer. I'll tap on a little bit and really let it sit for about 15 seconds before I start blending, and that will give the whatever moisturizers in your concealer time to absorb into the skin. You're left blending out more pigment that way, so you get better coverage. Again, I love a beauty blender for under eye because it gives a little more moisture. Now to the world of setting powders. Some of my favorites though come from MAC, and I have the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish. Now this one's not a totally flat finish. It just gives the appearance of pretty healthy skin. It's definitely not glowy, but it's not totally matte either. Now I also love the Studio Fix Perfecting Powder. Now this is a loose powder. It gives a little less coverage than what the Mineralized Skin Finish does, but this is a little more matte. A couple of my favorites from the drugstore are the Rimmel Stay Matte. This gives, I would say, a medium coverage on top of whatever foundation I'm using, and it is a flat powder, so I honestly tend to steer away from that in the dead of winter when my skin's a little more dry. See, I'm basing all of this on the condition of my skin. Everything from my primer to my concealer to foundation and now powder. It's all being based on how healthy my skin is at the time. The Maybelline Fit Me Loose Powder, I really like this one. I would say again, it's a medium to as full of a coverage as you can get from a powder. And this is a shade like medium. It's a little too golden for me, so I need to pick up another shade, but I really love this powder. The OG Coty Airspun, I like the shade Naturally Neutral. A lot of people will use this to bake with. However, I found that recently whenever I bake with this, it does the thing. Like, even though I don't have a ton of product under my eye, it settles and kind of creates textures. But it does give a really sheer coverage and does an awesome job of mattifying and setting your makeup. Throw another one in just for good measure. This is the Kat Von D Translucent Setting Powder. I really like this one for under the eye, but it does have quite a bit of a glow to it. So it's not flat. It is more yellow tone, so it's good for neutralizing those purple tones underneath your eyes. And because it has such a significant glow to it, I don't love it for all over my face. I just use it under eye. So for today, I'm going to use my Naturally Neutral, and I want to press that in. You don't want to buff or circles or grind your brush onto your face. You just want to press it in. If you buff, you can unblend your foundation. And you don't have to set all over it, especially when you're using a powder that doesn't have any color to it. If you feel like your foundation wears fine through here, don't set there. A lot of people will just powder their T-zone because they feel like that's where they get some shine, where their makeup kind of breaks down. Let's move on to bronzer. So a couple of my favorite bronzers are Benefits Hoola, and this is just Crumbs, but you can see it's pretty neutral. It's not too dark for me, so I can use it pretty far into summer, but then it's workable enough that I can use it most of winter too without too much effort. Bare Minerals High Dive, which is much deeper, much more warm, and I use this in like the dead of summer. That's why I've had it for years and just now hit pan on it recently. Last, I have MAC's Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Dark Golden. Yes, this is a setting powder, but I really like this because it doesn't lean so super peachy. It's not overly cool either. It has that kind of golden undertone to it, and I love it to bronze. So don't feel like you're totally limited just to bronzers to bronze your face. You can use a face powder that's a little bit darker and get that same kind of effect. So today I'm going to use the Dark Golden Mineralized Skin Finish on a fluffy brush. Now, a lot of people don't realize that yes, there is a difference between bronzing and contouring. I am taking it in the same areas that I contour. When you bronze, you're adding warmth to the face. So this is what you would do if you felt like your foundation was a little too much coverage and is washing you out. You want to add a little bronzer. Also, if you feel like your foundation's a little light. So now that we are bronzed, let's move on to contour. First things first, I do not feel like most people need a contour palette. I think that it's excessive for one person, especially if you're just doing on the daily makeup, if you're not working on clients. So for an individual's personal collection, something like this is overboard. And if you're new to makeup, it can be really overwhelming. This is a fantastic palette. I carry it in my kit for when I do freelance jobs. If I have a wedding party, I've got a contour for almost everybody. I've got a highlight for almost everybody. So I really like this concept for your freelance girls, your professional makeup artists. But as an individual, you really only need one shade contour that's going to work for your face. Your contour does not have to be as dark as bronzer. You're trying to add a shadow. Think about a shadow. Shadows are gray, dark gray, black. So you want to add something with almost a gray undertone to it. You'll notice it's not much deeper than what my skin tone is now. In fact, it's pretty dead on with it. I also love sculpting powder in Shadester when my skin is much deeper, like July. So my camera battery died, and while it was letting it charge, I went through some curls in my hair. I'm going with MAC's Next to Skin. And not everybody needs to contour. Not everybody needs to contour everything. I tend to focus my contour on my nose and my cheekbones. When we're contouring, we're adding structure, we're adding definition to our face. I'm going to start about the top of my earlobe and bring it down not much further than the corner of my eye. And I'm laying that right on top of where I did the bronzer, but because I used a bigger, fluffier brush for the bronzer, it's more diffused. For blush, this one doesn't really need a whole lot of explanation other than the fact that your makeup does not look more natural by not wearing blush. Especially if you're wearing a super heavy coverage foundation, your face is not naturally one color. So when you make your face one color, you're gonna look washed out, like you have no life in your skin. So for my blush, I'm going to use MAC's Blush Baby. It's not too pink, it's not too plum, it's not too peach. Your highlight does not have to be foiled and super intense shimmery. It doesn't have to be. That's what's on trend right now. But if you just do a lighter powder on the high points of your face, something with a slight sheen to it, it will give you still a highlighted effect. With the contour, we were shadowing, we were bringing those areas back. With highlight, you're adding light, so you're bringing those areas forward. I'm going to use the color Champagne Pop to highlight with. I'm going to place that with the right hand on the top of my blush, bridge of my nose. I have a pretty heavy eyeshadow look right now, so I'm going to take MAC's Boldly Bare lip pencil. I'm going to go over top with Tarte's Tarteist Lip Paint in the shade Pillow Talk. That's it. thank you so much for watching. I hope I was able to clarify a couple of things on why we do things, what's the purpose behind doing this. If there's something that I didn't cover that you want to know about, or if there's something that you'd like me to go into a little more detail on, just leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe, and thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time.